Hello, everybody. Welcome to the TDFam stream. There's already 200 of you. Jeez, that's a lot. If you can hear us, please give us a thumbs up on the stream. I'm gonna check who is not muted themselves. Greg, I'm gonna mute you. Sorry, you will need to unmute yourself. Okay, yeah, you can hear us loud and clear. Everything is fine. Nice. All right. Well, again, welcome everybody. This is the first of this kind of a stream that I've ever done, or seen in a long time also in our community. So it's great to have everybody here, from creators to also derivative members. So I would just like to introduce everybody right now, kind of in the order that we will go. So we will start with an introduction of TDFam from Lyall and me. Then Kyle, Prismatic Visuals, is going to show L2D. Then Luka Sladakovic is going to show his four operator families. Then Yosef is going to talk about T3D. Mini UV Yuval is going to talk about Popex. Heckaman about GOPs, which is Gaussian split operators. I'm really excited for this one. Then Ethan LOA is going to talk about blocks, also known as Matterform. Then Edwin Alagast is going to talk about MCX, multi-channel audio operators. Then .simulate Lyall is going to round us off with LOPS. And then I will also have my 5 minutes of fame because I don't have a family to show. You are all my family, I guess. My second, third family. So yeah, and then we have also in the stream, Marcus Heckaman, Technical Director of Derivative, Greg Harmonovic, the co-founder of Derivative. We also have Jared Smith, also co-founder of Derivative. And later on, Isabel Rousset might join us also, and who is the Director of Community and Communications. It's really great to have everybody here. So yeah, let's talk a little bit about TDFam. Lyall, are you here?
Yeah. Hey.
Cool.
Welcome, everyone.
Nice. All right. Yeah, let's talk a little bit about what TDFam is and how it came to be, I think, and why it came to be. So I think it's worth mentioning, like, for me, the first time I saw a custom operator family was when I saw Tommy's RayTK, and that was for me the first time. I was like, oh wow, that's something crazy. That's a totally new thing. Unfortunately, RayTK is not part of TDFam. It's too big, I think, for to be included as a TDFam. It needs to be its own thing. And then, of course, Yosef Peltz, who is also here with us, came with T3D. Which was, I think, where most people were surprised that this can be integrated into the OP Create dialog. And that was, I think, a big step into getting it in people's minds that this is a thing that's possible, including mine. Of course, I have a history of modding TouchDesigner's UI, as you can see up here. This is also a free and open source project from my GitHub. But yeah, I was really interested in what Yosef was doing, and we were talking a bunch about what could be done. And then some features came, for example, stubbing, which we will talk about, which kind of leaves a skeleton of the family for sharing with other people. And then came Popex from UL, Mini UV, which was the next step, because that was the first time where we actually got to see some issues pop up. Of course, having two custom operator families suddenly show up, and then without having certain standards in the first place, some issues were happening. So they didn't they didn't live next to each other perfectly well in the beginning. And then communication started at the same time, or even before, I guess. LOPS from Lyall was under construction, so that was kind of a parallel line. lineage of custom operator families, Popex and LOPS. And I think that's when really TDFam started to become a thing, where Lyall started a bit of standardization. And then, because I was also involved in the communication in all of these, I also jumped on in the project to kind of round it up and create a new architecture and a new standard together with Lyall. And that's what TDFam right now is. And this right now enables us to be able to, for all of these families to live next to each other in peace and unity and love, as they should. Yeah, and I think you want to
going
add...
back to like the first moment might have been the Berlin meetup in 2024 when Joseph was like, oh, I'm working on this thing. And I look over his shoulder and there's like a new operator family. It might have been a little bit after that it was actually in the operator family, but it was like, oh no, we can do that. And I had been experimenting with the idea of like breaking LOPS or like these conversations with agents into tables in TouchDesigner and like doing conversation management through feedback. And I was like, oh, I want to make an operator family. This is great. But obviously T3D was a little hard-coded for that name. So I took it, made it into LOPS, still hard-coded. There was a bunch of conflict. At one point I sent it to Mini UV, and I think that was actually around the time of the Tokyo TouchDesigner meetup. So all of these things kind of nicely land around when I'm in like hanging out with the derivative people and having a lot of like good energy, which is fun. But there was a moment where it was like, oh no, now if you have 3 and you uninstall one, they delete all of them. So we need to start figuring out what this means to have multiple in one. And there have now been surfaced several versions of Popex that have been released, a couple versions of LOPS that have had like iterative versions of this like generalized family framework. And then I was chatting with Dan and it was basically like, okay, let's make this real. And it was really fun, specifically to work with Dan on like architecture choices. There's so much stuff that we've made that make it really easy. You can do all sorts of customization with like beyond just putting that op create dialog in your tab. You can do little help text things. You can right click and get the documentation links. Everything is defined in like a manifest.
Yeah, maybe we can show that right now, like how to create an operator family. Maybe that's a good time right now, right?
Yeah, I think I mean, it does take about 30 seconds. So
yeah.
it is
my computer is struggling a bit because I think I'm doing a lot of things with the stream right now. So I hope this will be fine. But basically, if you go to the GitHub, which there's a link that should go out now, hopefully, yeah. If you check the GitHub link on the right side, you will see the releases, and what you get there is TDFam create docs. So you just drag and drop that into TouchDesigner, like so. Yeah, my computer is struggling. And then the next step is really to name your family. So this is going to be what I call test family. And that should already appear in the OP create dialog if it opens. Hello, yeah. So the family is already there as test. If we want to add new operators to this, we can click the create op comp button, which just creates an empty comp. And in here is where you add your custom operators. So I can add the base. I will just create a very basic noise, my custom noise thing, let's say. So I just put some parameters out there, just to have something like that. So these are my custom operators. Right now it's only one. And when I'm done editing my operators, I have to click Ensure Manifests. We will talk about manifests a bit more in one sec. But when I clicked that, my base one is already there. So I called it base one. Very not interesting example, but here's our custom test family operator called base one. And I can of course add more. Maybe I should add an output also, just to and an input, just to show off that you can chain these obviously in. And I can also define for this custom operator family what are the compatible families. So because right now it's only a top, I will choose the top. You can also make families cross-compatible with each other. And when you do this, when you set it as a compatible operator family, what it means is when I place down my base one and want to chain another base one next to it, it will be available as such, as the compatible family alongside top, of course, because it's a top output. What else? Of course, you can change the color here if you want. You can change the order that your family is taking in the upgrade dialog. So if I want to make this the first one, I just put it as index 0. And then that will put it before comps even. Other than that, yeah, we could talk about manifests and some custom stuff. Maybe Lyall, they want to show some things that you did for LOPS, some more advanced. Oh, maybe, yeah, I should talk about stubs maybe before we go into a bit more into the weeds.
Yeah, stubs and updates real quick might be good.
So stubs came from the need that basically I wanted to share a T3D patch on my Patreon also, which I'm going to post a link now. So I wanted to share something of T3D on my Patreon, but of course I didn't want to share T3D itself because that's on Yosef's Patreon. So I told this to Yosef, and then came stubs, which we adopted and much improved. And stubbing means that if I have these two base comps here that are the custom operators right now, when I create stubs for all, when I click that one, I don't know why this became so big, but yeah, created 3 stubs. And it means that these base 2 and base 3, now if I go inside, my noise is gone. So that was kind of the, let's say the intellectual property of this operator, of the family. And what's left behind is just the input and the output and the manifest. So anything GLSL and any other operators that would kind of give away somebody's IP or somebody's Patreon exclusive stuff, that gets removed from the operator family. And then what the creator can do is they can, of course, then remove this test family or T3D or whichever family and just share these stubs, these skeletons with somebody else. And if the person they are sharing with has also this operator family, because they are part of their Patreon or whatever, they can just drop it into their project file as normal, or open the talks that they were sent with the stubs, and simply click on replace stubs for all. Again, this is going to become huge. I click on regenerate. Okay, beautiful. And now the noise is back. So everything is magically restored to their original state. The parameters are retained, and there's a lot of rules that you can set up, which kind of parameters you want to retain. Do you want to retain internal states of parameters? So let's say that you have edited internally something in the operator. There are rules that keep those parameter changes also, and that's kind of the more advanced feature, as well as updates. So if a creator releases an update, to their operator family, version something, it's very easy to update to the new version of the family operators that are already there. So you would just bring in the new operator family, hit update all, and then if there's a new version of a certain operator that you already placed, it will update that operator in place, and also keeping all your data and things that the developer wants you to retain between updates. So that's updates and stubs in a nutshell. How much time do we have left? I don't see the timer.
I think it might have given you some.
We overflowed. Yeah. Okay. Yeah. Maybe that's enough about TDFam in a nutshell. Yeah. And maybe if you want in your time, Lyall, at the end,
we'll round it out.
Yeah, you can. But also, I just want to point out that there's a documentation, of course, of most things, if not everything, on the GitHub link. Again, posting that. So there's a README and also separate reference manuals for the manifest and the config reference, where you can customize a lot of things about your operator families. And I think we will see some of those customizations coming up. And yeah, I would probably now hand off the room to Kyle.
Sweet.
Kyle. Yeah. Also, yeah, we will have some minutes in between presentations to chat a little bit about the families, but also at the end we will kind of keep it open-ended for just chatting. So I will find you, Kyle, and put you on. Are you sharing your screen? Yes, great.
Yeah, I should be.
I need to stop sharing mine. Sorry, there's a lot to manage here. Where am I sharing mine? Okay, I'm just gonna stop sharing. Cool, I think you're good to go, Kyle.
Sweet. Okay, so yeah, I'm Kyle, or Prismatic. Excited to be here with y'all, and I'm showing L2D. Here's what it looks like in the app. So there's 3 different types of operators, and it's basically a system for modular 2D lighting. And first I'll show you some examples. This is one of my favorites, where you can have these simple shapes, but get all sorts of refractive and dispersive lighting effects and global illumination with volumetric lighting. So just adding a couple of shapes here, and this Monte Carlo renderer is adding all of this additional lighting. You can also get reflection on curved surfaces and get some cool like caustic patterns. The most basic effect is just emission of your 2D objects throughout space. And then another one here is, this is sort of a different paradigm, where instead of global illumination as those other examples, this is using direct rendering, where you define point lights, and those lights can cast volumetric shadows around any sort of 2D object. And these objects can also cast shadows across themselves. So like you see, these letters are in the shadow of this object here. So that one's a fun one to play around with. Let's see, I'll just show a few more examples here. This is another sort of like refractive example. This one is using instancing, and one cool feature is that you can instance L2D geometry and vary these sort of refractive parameters per instance, which I might show a bit more later. Here's one like interactive drawing with global illumination. And here's shows some more like experimental effects of the Monte Carlo renderer, where you can bend the rays as you march through space and get watery type effects. So now I want to explain basically what it is and how it works. So as I mentioned earlier, there's 3 types of operators: geometry, lighting, render. And this is based on how rendering usually works in TouchDesigner. So the basic flow is that you define a geometry, you create a material for it, you optionally create some lights, and then you render it. And an L2D, there are 3 different types of geometry. So the first one is just a basic shape generator. The second one is a top 2 that lets you take in any sort of texture and turn it into an L2D object. And then the third is a SOP2 that lets you take in 3D objects and again turn them into L2D geometry. And you can also add instancing on this SOP2. So this, you can go pretty deep into like customizing all the different L2D specific parameters per instance. And then, yeah, the material defines how it appears in the render. And there's different pages that correspond to these different render operators. So indirect lighting can control emission and stuff like reflection and refraction if you have Monte Carlo rendering set up, as well as dispersion. Absorption too, you can get like colored glass. And the cool thing is that all of these parameters can also be controlled via maps. So I could like define a noise and add that as the IOR map, and it will create different IOR at every point in space. It's a little subtle here, but fun to play around with. Next, I'll cover the renderers. So Monte Carlo is really like the flagship renderer, and it is doing global illumination, where at every point you shoot out a bunch of rays and take the average of what they hit. And it can do a lot of like complex light transport effects like refraction and dispersion and these other things, as well as warping the rays, which can get fun and experimental. Radiance cascades is also a form of global illumination, but it's just a different implementation. It was kind of recently developed. So it's a really cool technique that creates a more stable output and doesn't rely as much on temporal smoothing. You can see this one gets a little grainy, so you often want to go into post and turn on temporal smoothing to basically denoise that a bit. And then this third one is the direct operator. And this one, the primary operator is these point lights that you can move around like more traditional lighting. So that one's turned off, but I can go in here and move this point light around and cast these soft shadows. And you can also like get area lights and do object surface shading and stuff like this. And there's a couple more light operators as well. You've got a distant light. So if I turn this on, this works in both sorts of operations and yeah, creates sort of like a sun type effect from a distance. And then the final type of light is this ambient light that will just add light throughout the scene, like a sky. One cool thing there is that you can input a color map. So you can create sort of like a sky gradient and get interesting effects there. So yeah, I think that's kind of a basic rundown. Why I think this is interesting is that I think 2D lighting is a really cool paradigm in graphics because you're limiting the lighting to a single plane. You get these effects that are very particular and stylistic, where you get very concrete volumetric shadows around shapes and very concrete global illumination that just looks very different than something you'd get in 3D. And I think 2D lighting has shown up a lot in games and game engines, but has been a little bit underrepresented in TouchDesigner. So I think it's exciting to have it as sort of like a first-class citizen of operators you can use as if you were doing anything else. How this was developed is, for a while I was working on this global illumination component, which is a standalone thing you may have seen. And this just let you plug in anything and add the sort of Monte Carlo or radiance cascades effects. And I was developing this for a while, and I started to feel this sort of friction because I wanted to add more functionality to it. I wanted to add it refraction and reflection, but there was no good way to specify that per object in the scene. I played around with like putting in maps to control each of those parameters, but it just felt very clunky. So I had this sort of epiphany of like, wait a minute, this should really become a modular system, and it could end up working a lot like this sort of rendering. And around that time, I reached out to Dan about this, and the timing just happened to work out perfectly. He was like, we've got a tool coming for you soon. So yeah, it worked out really well with the introduction of TDFam and L2D. They really coincided. So I'm grateful to these guys for developing such a great tool right when I needed it. And yeah, so I think next I'll do a little bit of behind the scenes about how this is working. So really the core functionality here is all ray marching with SDFs. So if you go inside one of these render operators, they all are using a distance field. In this case, I'm generating it via this distance field operator, which uses jump flooding. But this is really like the core functionality that makes this all possible, is this jump flood SDF. And then in terms of rendering, it's all with these custom GLSL shaders within here. The way that the rendering works is that you can think of each of these geometry operators as basically a struct with a bunch of textures that define how it will be rendered. So if you go inside here and go into outputs, each of these geometry operators is outputting all of these textures that define how it should appear at each point in the frame. And those are a combination of material properties from the material, as well as just like scene properties, color, distance, normals, ID, etc. And then those are combined into larger textures to be more efficient to pass in. And then in the actual renderer, I'm basically taking in all the different geometries and compositing all of their individual textures. So in the end, you just have one texture that defines like, okay, at each point, what is the IOR? How refractive should it be? And it integrates all the information from all the different geometries in the scene. And then in the actual render operations in Monte Carlo, you're just taking in these final textures that combine all that data and passing it in. But yeah, I think this texture-based rendering is really interesting and powerful because they're all textures, you can do things like really easily vary all of the maps per pixel in a very intuitive way. It's not like you have to do UV mapping or anything. It's all just happening within screen space. So it's very expressive and kind of like easy to work with in that way. And yeah, it looks like I'm at about 10 minutes. I think that's a decent overview. The last thing I just want to mention, one of my favorite features is this surface shading of these objects, where you can basically add this like faceted shading, which I just think is an interesting effect to be able to take global illumination and add it to the actual surface shading. It's not something I've seen in other global illumination shading systems. So that's kind of one of my favorite L2D features, and it works by marching along the normal and sampling the global illumination value just outside the surface of the object. So yeah, lots more I could say, but I think I'll leave it there. And yeah, thanks everyone.
Thank you. Absolutely beautiful. I love how unique these things look. And yeah, can't wait to play more with these. Yeah, I wanted to ask you maybe to just to show something of TDFam while you were sharing your screen. The groups, I wanted to just kind of point out how you organized.
Yeah, let me pull it back up.
Yeah.
Yeah, so within the TDFam create, you can create this table called group mapping, and this will define for each of these operators which group do they appear in within the op menu, and then you can set this settings to sort within the group according to these custom values. So yeah,
thanks. Yeah, I want to say that this is a small family, but I think it's still an operator family in the very raw meaning of it, because these operators really can only interface with each other. It's not like you can connect any top to it or stuff like that, except if it has a top input. But they really work together as a group, as a family, and I think that's the main idea behind operator families. That we will see maybe some families that are more akin to collection of tools, which are also fine. Just wanted to say this, that it's a small one, but still a very contained family. Yeah, any questions. I think there was a question on chat that I noted. Is this NVIDIA only, or does it work on everything?
It works on everything. Yeah, I've tested on my Mac and it's all good. There's nothing, yeah, there's no sort of specific features. It's all just GL cell shaders. So it's pretty portable.
Nice, great. Yeah, if there's any questions from our guests, let us know. If not, we might move on and have Luka on. Luka, are you here with us? Don't forget to unmute yourself. I do not see him actually in the call.
I'm really fighting with all the technical issues. Do you hear me?
Yeah, I can hear you. Yeah.
Do you hear me at all?
Yeah, we do hear you.
Okay. So I can share my screen.
Yep, please do.
Okay.
I'm also just looking for you in the, okay, screen is shared.
So
Wait, can everybody hear Luka from the stream is my question, because there's so many people that it's hard to find him. Yeah, you should be hearing, I think.
yeah, like all the tech stuff that could hit me probably hit me. So
Yeah, sweet. We can see and hear you. And I haven't, okay, you have a notification. All right, the floor is yours.
okay. Okay. What can I say? Amazing. Thank you for this honor to have this session with you. First of all, thanks to Dan and Lyall for making this amazing compatibility tool that allowed me to just make all of this compatible with the rest of creators and their operator families. So thanks also to amazing creators that we have, because I took a lot of inspiration from T3D and Popex recently. I've been checking and I've been just including all the knowledge from the already TouchDesigner masters to have it here. And also thank you for all the amazing guests from Derivative, because this is the most amazing piece of software that you created. And I've envisioned like some things that were not native in software, but you allowed me with components to build my own systems and just build all of the stuff and have all the necessary components to build it. So without further ado, let's just dive in, because I have to show, I have 4 families to show. And I've been a little ambitious about turning all of my passionate hobbies into TouchDesigner systems. So I come from background of music production, and I wanted to create fractals for music. And I also work as a street juggler all my life, and mostly in Belgrade in Serbia. But yeah, so I've turned all of these things into operator systems for TouchDesigner. So last year I created a touch fractal component for TouchDesigner, and at one point I wanted to update it, but there was just too many components, and turning it into a operator family really made sense. So let's get a small overview of what's going on. So these are FOPs, and these are columns for fractals. These are transformations. So let's get one from each, just to have an idea what's going on. And these are folds. And let's get very basic one, box fold. So I have a fractal, and as you can see, this is a mix of texture, tops, and dots, and comps. So this is a merge of these families. Each fractal has is allowing to make a local hybrid. And how this works, I can show you. So if I have a text word, this is the fractal code. As you can see, it says no transformation connected. So if I connect this to this input, it will recompile the code and it will insert it inside here. This is the slots that it's expecting. So this is the most clean way I could design Fractal system to have a optimized way and not to have too much code inside. So every every transformation and every fold is a piece of code that you can actually see very clearly and learn from it even. So all of these are exactly shown as that. And these are like local hybrids. And now as I connected this, I have all the parameters to additionally control the fractals. So each transformation has this blending parameter. So I have original position of, in this case, Mandelbrot, and I can just blend between. This is very nice to use with audio reactive stuff and yeah, stuff like that. And you can pretty much, of course, see all the transformation happening. So this is a transformation example. Let's do a very basic box fold. And it goes to the input which expects fold. And how are they different? In Fractals, you have like pre-transformation, pre-iteration, iteration, and post-iteration. So every transformation is applied to the whole fractal before iterating it. And folds are applied at each iteration of the fractal. So you can set fractal iterations here. And this is a good example because now the scene is too big to introduce a render. So this is a render FOP, which is very similar to render top, but it's actually only allowing fractals. So if you go to render and reference the fractal, now I have a render here. And anyone that uses TouchDesigner is familiar now with this workflow. I will get the camera and I might get the distant light. I will grab one point light. So now I'm connecting camera. I'm referencing to the camera that is expecting. And now I can just simply move with camera comp inside GLSL. So camera comp is a wrapper for GLSL camera that controls shader. And as you can see, there is a wireframe box, which is a kind of geometry orientation just to have a general idea where you are in space. So if I connect now, for example, light, I can connect it here to light operator. And let's add one point light. So point light will do code recompilation. So this is now recompiling. I really hope that this whole session is gonna go well without technical issues, because any recompilation is a tricky thing. Also a point light, which I can position to the fractal, and it has a gizmo, so-called. Let me see. Camera a little bit more far. And let's turn off, for example, the fold just to see things more clearly. So we have a mandible. And if we mess around with a point light, you see it, oops. You see it appearing as a gizmo on the, it's a shader, a small gizmo just to have orientation where the light is. But as you can see, like if I look at the, for example, light, which I also can, of course, rotate, I have all of these as wrappers. So it acts like camera comps, but it's just pure GLSL shader in modular way. So now I can connect something like path tracer. If I there is a renderer that expects this, and if I turn on the material reflection and stuff like that for some nice let me see, like, let's turn the specular a bit. You see, I'm getting a path trace fractal. So as you know, if I play it, path tracing is a little bit noisy by its nature. It's using Monte Carlo algorithm, same as Kyle's also, and you have this temporal anti-aliasing to which works like magic for rendering. If I enable it, all the noise disappears. As you can see, the difference if enable and disable. So you can use this with very few samples real time, but it's mostly for offline rendering. And I'm looking into NVIDIA DLSS solutions and stuff that are getting new to improve the noise in general. And also, I've learned from the master Joseph that you can output a compute shader, which is a very interesting rendering technique. And then I have a kind of T3D compatibility, which I'm connected like that. And this one expects this. And now you have pretty much geometry, fractal, with all of this possible connected and parsed like that. So yeah, pretty much. And let me see. So now you can use this in standard render top workflow with the camera.
We lost your voice, Luka, but also wanted to say that because you have 4 families to show, the time is over for this family at least. I mean, it's amazing, but maybe we can get back to some other stuff later. I don't know if you can hear me, because we cannot hear you. Oh, and he's gone.
The sheer number of fams knocked out his mic.
Yeah. It flew into fractal land. The mic left us into other dimensions. Yeah, I don't think he can also hear us because he had to mute his mic. So that's kind of a funny situation that he's just blabbering on. If somebody can, yeah, maybe I should message him on Discord. Maybe it's just that. Spiral. What's his name on Discord? Yeah. Okay. Luka, we're very sorry. We cannot hear you. This is live TV. This is how it works. Okay, I wish we. Okay, yeah. You should see the Discord. Cool. I think his mic just muted. That's what happened. Okay. In the meantime, are there any questions so far? There was a little bit of a discourse in the chat, like what is a family, or like why are these families, and these operators or these families, they are families in the sense that they share information between their operators that only mostly work with their own family. So in the case of fractal operators, as you saw, what's shared between the operators is DATs, and standalone those DATs are just pieces of code. But once they reach a conclusion in the renderer or in some other operator of FOPs, then they make sense, and that's why this can constitute as really a family of its own, similar to how RayTK works, or T3D, like with the 3D textures. Although now, okay, sorry. I think Luka is kind of back.
Let's delete all of the things, and then let's get to the next one. Okay, you see at least my stuff. Do you hear me?
Yep. I'm doing a thumbs up.
Do you hear me?
Yeah. We hear you.
Cool. So that's unfortunate. Let's just get things more. Let's do PC. Yates, do you hear me at all? Because I cannot hear you at all. I really hope that. Let me see. I'm really apologizing about this. Okay. Okay, you hear me? Okay, thank you. That's important. I cannot. Okay. Let me see. Like, I'm fighting all day with technical inconveniences, but yeah. Okay. I think that's fine. Let me see. If I grab, just tell me in the audio spectrum, if I grab device out and do very basic, let's see, like this, play. And if I do this, oh, I don't want to burn your ears. I will put a VCA, which is a voltage controlled amplifier. So let's get to the, sorry, the technical issues threw me off, but I'm trying to get back. Okay, so let's get back to swap, and it's controlled voltage operators. Do you hear this one at all? Someone please let me know if it's fine. Okay, so how does it work? Is this is a pretty much VCVOP system inside TouchDesigner, and I've been user of VCVOP for a long time, and you always start with a clock, and there is in this case a drummer, which is kind of a drumming machine, and you have like a preset for kicks and hats and stuff like that. Let's duplicate it. So I cannot hear at all what I'm doing. This is ridiculous, but let's just move with it. So if I take a hat, I'm literally doing this totally without the sound. And let's. This is slightly ridiculous. I don't know if someone should hop in before I get this technically right, so I can show you properly.
Yeah, we'll have
an alternative. Dan?
Yeah, we have.
If maybe
Yosef,
the next person
turn
to
on.
hop in until I set these things up, because there's audio things.
All right. So Yosef, you're next. Sorry, guys, about the technical issues. This is live TV.
Hello, everyone. Can you hear me well?
Okay, perfect.
We
Let's
can hear
just
you.
go with the Joseph.
Yeah. Okay.
I will turn off.
Are you sharing your screen, Yosef? Is my question.
I think I am, yeah.
Okay, we have that. Mm-hmm. There's so many things to juggle here. It's crazy.
Let me know when you're ready.
Yep, we are good to go.
Okay, so just a warm welcome to all of you. I'm so happy to have all these people interested in this tool, and most of all, I'm so glad that Dan and Lyall went all the way and built this kind of meta tool for TouchDesigner custom operator families. And I think I don't really want to show too much about T3D. Maybe you've seen it anyway before, and there's material already online. You can watch tutorials and stuff, and you'll see what it does. Here's just a quick demo. T3D is about 3D textures, which were originally not really supported at all in TouchDesigner, except for if you know how to write GLSL. And I, like, while I was working on all kinds of stuff over the last years, I realized I'm touching on 3D textures over and over again. I'm building small GLSL snippets every now and then. But I always felt like this should be like part of TouchDesigner. And as Lyall said, and I think this is something I want to emphasize, is at this TouchDesigner meetup event in Berlin, this energy of all these people from our beautiful community coming together is also what made this all happen and possible. I was fiddling around with Lyall, Torrent Blankensmith, and Simon Polyhop, who were all actually staying at my place because their Airbnb was canceled, I think. And we just had these super active TouchDesigner evenings and sessions. And we were kind of fiddling around to change the UI in TouchDesigner, as Dan is always doing it a lot, and changing operator colors and stuff. And at some point, we all, I don't know actually how it came about, had the realization that we can hack this in there and have the custom operator family installed. And at that point, I went on and built the first prototype of T3D, hacked it all in there. And yeah, that's history already. It happened now, but I'm so glad that Dan and Lyall took over and went beyond, because what they built here is honestly amazing. And I couldn't have done it because I don't have experience with this kind of system architecture. It's amazing what you build out of this. And yeah, as I said, I don't want to go too deep into what T3D is really, because you can find that online. I think I want to take this time on the stream actually to maybe give a big shout out to both Lyall and Dan, but specifically Dan, because Lyall is also building this for his own sake, for his own family of operators, LOPS, but Dan is really doing this for the sake of having this tool when he's not necessarily planning on creating his own operator family. So big shout out to Dan, and this is going to be open source, this tool. So if you feel like you want to support him, I'm just shouting out here. There's a Patreon where you can support Dan, and you probably should if you use any of his tools, which he's oftentimes releasing for free. So I just wanted to say that. And here's, just a quick example of some 3D texture stuff working. And maybe one thing to mention is by now, Derivative, thank you so much. You went on and actually enabled some of the regular tops to work with 3D textures, which is amazing, and make stuff even better than before. 3D textures are really interesting in combination with pops, as you see here. So here I'm using a 3D texture fluid that I'm rendering as this cloud here, but I'm using that to also generate a mesh from the 3D texture to drive particles, and then have trails behind those particles. But T3D really works well together with other operator families, especially tops and pops right now. So I'm really happy with how T3D evolved, and it feels like this. It's now kind of leaving my hands, and it's now growing beyond. And I'm so happy that this is happening. Yeah, I think that's everything I want to share here. I'm going to release my updated T3D, which is going to be compatible with the other families in the following hours, I assume, or maybe tomorrow. So yeah, that's basically it. Thank you so much.
Thanks a lot for the shout out also, Yosef. Very kind of you. Yeah, it's also nice to see that T3D kind of how it influenced the vanilla TouchDesigner experience when it comes to tops, and how much support now there is for 3D textures in the regular tops. So that's also nice to see how it had a major force. Yeah, very nice. Thank you. Yeah, I think somehow my link posting thing is broken and I cannot post the link of Yosef, but you all know his Patreon already, hopefully. But I'm just gonna find it now. Yeah, there we go.
In terms of maybe stealing a couple seconds to talk about just TDFam in general, there's like one of the things that Dan really pushed, and we like designed together. I mean, so much of the development with Dan was just like us talking about maybe in a year what could be a possible compatibility issue. So it was there's like a lot of just interesting like discussions, which was awesome. But there is the families that are like the Tox components that you'll be copied and put into your project, and those copy a registry into the sys of your project, and that registry is the same tool, but it's a different Tox, and there will be some updates to that and not updates to the family, but the registry is now like a secondary layer that can keep this compatibility across different families as well. So, and I think I saw a question in the YouTube about what does compatible with other families mean? That means like if you drag off from T3D, it'll be compatible with top, or like LOPS with DAT and shops and stuff. And you can be compatible within the families as well. But yeah, there will be some updates on like the registry, the TDFam side, that might come. Maybe a new version of TouchDesigner comes out. There's like some compatibility issues. So there's like a little bit of separation there where we can keep all the TDFams talking nice to each other.
Yeah, there was a question like compatible meaning what? Compatible meaning that when you drag out an operator from T3D, for example, it seems that Yosef set up T3D as Popex compatible, or no, just Pop compatible. So it will also show up as a possible thing to put after. Of course, this can be refined and will probably be refined so that it doesn't show all the operators that are compatible, because yeah, for example, in case of T3D or tops to pop, it will only make sense for a top to pop scenario or something like that. So that's what we mean by compatibility. Is really what shows up when you open the OP create dialog. Yeah, and
might be a niche thing because there are T3Ds which output a pop, but that's to be.
Such
I
as?
don't know. The sprinkle.
Sprinkle.
Which can take in a shape defined by T3D and sprinkle into its like sprinkle points from there. Yeah. But it's like that one operator, maybe it doesn't need to be compatible with the family.
You can actually define compatibility per operator. So this is something we already mentioned, the manifest. That is something that's inside each custom operator. And this is a JSON, and in the README you can find compatible types. I can define pops only for this one, and also obviously T3D. And then from then on, you don't have to define it for your whole family, just for certain operators, and that will work.
Amazing. That's what I meant when I said I'm happy that Dan and Lyall took over, because this is next level system building. Thank you.
Yeah, and what also Lyall mentioned was the fam registry. So this is something that we install into the /sys. Yeah, something I wanted to mention, because this will come up, this question, and this has come up already. Will the operators be there when you next open up TouchDesigner? And because we are not replacing your UI.tox or not replacing anything in your installation, they will not be there by default. So you either have to, every time you start your project file, drag in the operator families, or what I suggest doing, and that's what anyway I suggest doing for people to do, is create a custom startup file. So you can do that if you go to File, Edit, Preferences, and some other screen. Here in general, you have startup file mode, and here you can set a custom file. So you would basically get all your families. I also have a lot of my own tools in my startup file, and then I save this file as something on my computer, set it as custom file, browse for my custom startup file. And then next time I open up TouchDesigner, this file will be presented to me, and thus also the installed families. So that's the suggested workflow to keep these families in your TouchDesigner installation, so to speak. Yeah, that was an important thing to cover. Cool. Thank you, Yosef, and thanks also for the comments. Were there any questions in the chat that I missed? I don't think so. Great. Okay, next up we have Yuval, Mini UV. Are you here with us?
Yes, I'm here. Can you hear me?
Let me put you on. I just need to figure everything out. Okay. Are you sharing your screen already?
Yeah, I just did.
Okay, yeah, gotcha. Okay, I think you might be good to go. Yep.
All right. Hello, everyone. My name is Yuval, known more as Mini UV. Yeah, I'm going to present Popex. First of all, I want to thank all of you to be here, and especially Dan and Lyall for doing this amazing work. I've been waiting for this for a few months, maybe even one year since I started developing Popex. And also thanks to Joseph, which basically he started this kind of road for us, I believe, because originally when I developed Popex, I used his code to kind of like integrate my family into TouchDesigner. So yeah, thank you so much. And yeah, so Popex basically it's an extension to Pops. So when first Pops were introduced, I believe it was a year ago or maybe even more. I'm not sure. I started like diving in, and finally, you know, you had a chance to play with real geometry on the GPU and manipulate geometry and do stuff that you couldn't do with SOPs or just TOPs. And then I also started learning a bit Houdini actually, and I came across this other plugin for Houdini, which its name is MOPS, which stands for motion operators. And I thought like I really love this workflow of MOPS in Houdini, but I'm a TouchDesigner user, so I stopped learning Houdini because I really like TouchDesigner and doing stuff in actual real time and pushing it, you know, all the way. So this is how Popex came on. So basically it's Popex, it's kind of like an ecosystem by itself, where the main workflow is to generate any geometry with the generators over here. And then you have fall-offs, which are basically weights that you can define, saptual weights on your geometry. And the modifiers basically are modifying your geometry, and they can also take a fall-off as kind of like weight for how much they or where they are going to modify in a saptual way. And there is also some extra tools over here, which are one of them is the path tracer and a lot of other stuff that are related to the simulations also, which are basically kind of like a standalone, I would say, thing in Popex, which are basically just some solvers, for example, soft body or particles, or the flow, which is a fluid simulation. But what I want to share today for you to get sense of what is Popex actually. Is more about the workflow where you generate a geometry. For example, we have here an instancer, and the instancer basically takes any geometry and it's in any type that you choose. For example, I'm using here a sphere distribution, and what it does basically, it creates like kind of like a packed points which holds all the information on the geometry. So it's mostly the position, the size, the orientation. And to see it better, you can see I have a Popex visualize frame here. And you can see here on the viewer that basically it's showing each of the instances from the instancer its local orientation. And to get a sense of more about this, I'm connecting a transform modifier. Let me just visualize it. So I'm connecting a transform modifier after the instancer. And when I'm going to rotate it on the x-axis, for example, you can see that the instances are basically rotating on their local orientation. And same for translation and scaling and everything, which is, it's a very simple kind of like, you know, there isn't such a complex stuff over here, but to do this without without Popex, you will need to kind of like build a more complex system where you compute some vectors or matrices and stuff. And with Popex, the whole idea is to drop in 2 nodes and you can kind of like animate your instances or any other geometry. So just to demonstrate a fall-off, for example, I have a shape fall-off over here, which internally it's using like the fill pop with some extra features. So here it's like a linear fall-off, and where I'm coloring the fall-off, so you can see that where we are blue, it's like 0, and where we are white, we are 1. So then if I do the same transformation, you can see that the fall-off is working on it. And I can also kind of like move the fall-off around, which makes it very nice to have kind of like more, I would say, procedural animations. And you can also stack more modifiers. For example, the new one from the last version that I just released is the filter. So it kind of like makes a much more smooth septual filtering. And I have a spring over here, for example, which kind of makes the same in a different way. Yeah, so that's the basics of it. And just to show you a quick example of another generator, which is the explode. So the explode, for example, it creates a packed points over here. So the output is always like just the points itself with all the attributes. And you can split, for example, your mesh into kind of like clusters. So maybe if I scale them down a bit, and then you can basically do the same thing with just each of those clusters is kind of like a Popex geometry, I call it. It's a packed Popex geometry. And also in the latest version, I upgraded it to actually use a Voronoi structure, so it gets much more smoother pieces, which is really nice. And yeah, I think this is it. I will show you just some quick examples that I have here. For example, the soft body. And which basically I'm using here the path tracer. So I don't know if you can see the noisy edges over here. So this is using entirely Popex, the soft body. Another example is another soft body simulation, which is basically using a string constraint. And I've made a tutorial about it. So you can check it out on my YouTube. So it's basically kind of like a string that are attached into a moving body over here. And using the soft body, they are kind of like acting as hairs or whatever. And we have here another example of the path tracer, which just demonstrating some nice glassy materials. Yeah, so this is Popex, and you can go to my Patreon or watch some tutorials on YouTube. I am currently thinking of like stopping developing because I'm constantly developing new stuff, and I'm going to now focus on more actual tutorials to you know, to make people learn about those tools. So yeah, stay tuned. There are gonna be a lot of tutorials very soon. Thank you.
Amazing, thank you. The path tracer looks insane. It really
Thank
does.
you.
Whoa, what is happening with my screen layout? There's a lot of things that should not be there. Ah, yeah, okay, so yeah, that's what happened. Luka came back up. Right? Yeah, so we will continue with Luka for now. He will show us jobs.
Do you hear me?
We hear you briefly. Maybe
Do you hear me?
try now.
Okay.
Yeah, better.
I apologize for all the technical issues, but let's continue further. I hope. So these are, I think it fits nicely next to Popex because juggling operators for GOPs are again just motion operators also. So I'm a juggler, so these are the tricks. Operators are actually juggling tricks mainly. And I think this fits vibe of, oh, I see the stream is slightly laggy, but let's deal with it. And then let's grab just two tricks, two juggling tricks. And there is very interesting methods to do this. And now I can, for example, take one ball from first trick, and then I can take two balls from other trick, and for example, pattern. And this is a tool to invent new juggling tricks. And I'm extremely happy about that because I'm playing around and learning new methods to just do this and learn about more tricks. So this is the kind of a way where you could blend two tricks into another one. So it outputs a chop info, which is, as you can see, you have a ball position X, Y, each one. You have also some, for example, if I connect it like this directly, I have a side swap number, which is just juggling notation that can be used very easily as an index. You can see that these two balls that. So if I found a very nice method to just get this to pops. So if I go to sphere pop, for example, I have these balls in pops, in 3D geometry. So this is, I envisioned this to use this as a motion pattern on the places where you would like to have a sphere pop, for example. And if I, for example, get to like something like a copy and very fast do like CVOP copies, and you can easily see what will happen. And here you have a juggling trick which creates this amazing, beautiful pattern. And yeah, it's very easily to get from this point. So my idea was to use this when you would like to grab an LFO, for example. You could go to job and just grab a juggling trick, and I'm sure jugglers are very excited about this. For people that don't juggle, it's maybe a bit different, but anyone who juggles really understands how amazing this is, because it actually fits, in my opinion, very nicely the whole vibe of TouchDesigner. And even a logo of TouchDesigner and derivative is 3 balls. So it's, I think it kind of fits the picture very well. So this is like chop to pop, and you can get also these to, for example, subs. And now I have a sub geometry, which I can, for example, let's do a noise. And as you can see, I have now kind of juggling potatoes. And if you connect, for example, something like trail, you can get very nice, for example, OP viewer. You can get very nice, easily pattern geometry that you could use in your network. So there is also like a sequencer, which I'm improving on. But for example, you could sequence different tricks. So I can take Mills mass. This is very standardized tricks from the juggling. And yeah, let's take maybe something, let's go columns easily. And I can sequence one trick after the other. You can add some type of smoothing and everything. And I'm improving on this switching, but this way you could pretty much get motion inside TouchDesigner in a very easy way. And I'm connecting this compatibility to USB mainly as a sequence for the like music. It's very interesting to use these as sequencers, because it kind of, you can map this to anything. If you have chop info that and this, it's really easy to map it to anything. And I'm happy to explore this with Popex also. We just saw amazing showcase by MiniUV as always. So I'm happy to explore what I can do with the pops. And yeah, pretty much about juggling operators. I'd say this is a very short introduction. I want to just mention, because these are 2 audio families, and let's hope audio serves me well. But I have 2 families for audio, and I think both make sense in TouchDesigner. Like if you take a CVOP, this is just, as I told you, PCB rack inside TouchDesigner. I'm a huge lover of modular synthesizers, and it kind of makes sense because I have an LFO which is like this, and if you take chop LFO, you can see how it. If I go like analyze, you get the same thing, but it just happens differently. So to visualize something like this, I think these give very nice visualization. Also, like CVOPs, let's try to get it work. So as any modular network, you start with a clock. So I have a clock that is taking some kind of beat, and I want to get it to run something. And this is a kind of drum thing that you could have some presets. And let's, if I grab this and if I gate input and if I play it, I have a very interesting already. I see this very fit very well inside of TouchDesign because you could use this to get it, for example, to pops. If you get chop 2, and if you bring something like this to pop, whoops, what did, oh, I need a note, sorry. Let's get null chop. And if I grab something like this and just change the attribute because it's not vector 3, you have something like this. Very easily. Okay. And as you can see, okay, I don't know what happened again. So okay, we are back. So this now you can again use with, I mean, I just love copy pop. It's an incredible way to get very fast, interesting results if you know what values to write. I kind of have a slight orientation about it. So yeah, just easy visuals from audio signal like this. And if we try to make this work and get the sound out, let's give it a go. Audio device out. And I will put VCA, which stands for voltage control amplifier. So all of these are voltage controlled oscillator, filter, and stuff like that. So you could grab something like that and get it to the sound. So I have no idea, are we getting any sound? I think not. Let me see. Oh, not because of that. Okay. So this is just a kick. For example, if I duplicate this, if I change clock to some more division, you have sound. So I don't hear sound, but I'm gonna do it like totally like in my mind how it should work. But let's see. Oops, I apologize on that. So it wasn't connected, so it's fine. So I have a hat. Let's say I will also add the VCA, which controls the amplifier. Is just how loud it is, and again correct, and I have something like that going on already. So to keep things slightly to not break my PC, I will just bypass this for now, just to give another example. And for example, if I take multiplication like I did from here, and get it to something like sequencer, I can now use sequence throws, which I can randomize. So I have no idea what's playing, but let's just deal with it. Row row 1 because I'm on the tab of row 1. It's just voltages, and I have used random voltages. And let's get this to quantizer to get some nodes. And I can choose like nodes like this, let's say. And maybe again get this to VCA just to control it and use proper input, and just get out audio device out. I'm stopping this, but I'll just a second. So now what comes useful is something like keyboard in, and I can just grab this and maybe use randomized rows and map it, so I can easily just switch patterns. And I have no idea what's up. I hope you're in. Okay, give me a second. Let's get all of these out for now. So as I press buttons, you should be hearing a sound which changes based on these patterns. I'm not sure what do you hear. I hope everything is fine. So this was a very short introduction to, and I'm gonna just rush through the strudel because we don't have much time. How it works is you spawn a strudel master, and what it does, this is also a strudel coding language that I turned into an operator system. So what it does, it spawns the. Okay, we're done. So seems like I got lost connection. Yeah. So thank you for watching. If you're hearing this still, thank you for everyone, because I will need some time to get my PC back. So cheers.
All right. Thanks, Luka.
Thanks,
It's
Luka.
good that we got to hear something, at least. Yeah.
Oh, you still hear me?
Yeah, we hear you.
Oh, you
it's
still
just
hear me?
your screen is gone. That's the only thing.
I just sorry. We had electricity cut in my village, and this
shit.
this just happened. So again, thank you everyone for checking this, and I will definitely share the systems very soon, and I'm very thankful for this opportunity. So
thanks.
cheers.
Yeah, check out Luka's Patreon and everything else for future updates and videos on these, I guess. Yeah, were there any questions? Not really, I don't think. So we could quickly move on because we're also kind of running out of time soon. Well, at least the scheduled time. So we still have coming up. Well, actually, yeah, we have Lake coming next with Gaussian split operators. Then we have Ethan Matterform coming with blocks, I believe. And then Edwin with MCX. And then finally Lyall with LOPS finishing us off. So yeah, let's get Lake up here. Lake.
Hello.
Hello.
Yeah, can you hear me?
Yep.
Can you hear me all right? Okay, cool.
Okay, screen, you're good to go.
Cool. Yes, so GOPs are Gaussian splat operators. I've been working a lot on Gaussian splat pipeline toolkit for myself, and it was already kind of getting out of control, and the functionality was way too much for a single component. So I was moving in this direction, and then I was talking to Lyall at one of the TouchDesigner meetups in New York like a couple months ago, and he was like, "Oh, we're doing this thing with the operator families." I was like, "Oh, I never thought about turning this into an operator family," and here we are. So I'm happy to be able to share it with everyone. Basically, the operating pipeline is going to start with a either particle system splat or a static splat. And so we have both of those here. These are both like generators. And so they are the very beginning of the whole pipeline. And one very important thing is that they take a render top as an input, because every splat pipeline is camera and viewpoint specific. So it needs an association with a render top and a camera to be able to go through a lot of the operations. So I'm going to talk about a few of the kind of like cool stuff that I have built out for the operator family. But first, just like a really high level structure of what we have. So again, for the IO, it's really just loading in a static splat or creating a particle system out of the splat. That was kind of the core of my first version component. And so we were keeping those, but then adding a lot of this other functionality, which is way more exciting. So things like advection, interacting with 3D effector, that sort of thing. Lots of different editing, adding normals, bounding boxes, using a histogram to be able to address different attributes. And importantly, any of those changes can be saved by writing out to a splat file. And then you can load that back in. And so it's finally kind of taking out one step in the iteration process, needing to use like an external splat editor like SuperSplat to do cleanup and stuff like that. So eventually I'll be adding more kind of like splat pre-processing tools to this as well. But for the time being, I'm focusing on the animation side of things and the render side of things, which is what I'm going to be spending most of the time for this little demo talking about. So we have over here our viewer. And like I said, there's the static version, which still allows you to switch between splats very easily. And you can load them based on sequential parameters. One cool thing that I've been working a lot on is also a really nice, easy way to actually map and change your viewpoints of splats, and then be able to have these viewpoints pre-transform the splats themselves so that it's a much more intuitive kind of like homing process and figuring out where you are than just like using a transform pop and clicking and dragging. And then the particle side is very similar in the sense that there are, you can load n different splats, as many as your GPU memory can handle. I'm already a little bit over there with my GPU memory. But the cool thing here is that we're able to actually mix between the different splats in real time. And that's like an any-to-any sort of mix. And so the particle system aspect really makes that possible, and then gives you a bunch of other stuff like distorting and dispersing the splat itself, adding some cool post-processing in the background, and yeah, just kind of like all the stuff you would want to do with a particle system, but being able to do that with any splat, and then again, actually transition from one splat to another super easily. Also, as part of this, I've created like this control panel component where you can actually be able to see your real-time render and adjust. I think I just broke something there. Adjust a little bit easier. And then finally, in our render, so all of the splats are compatible with the other GSOPs, of course, and then pops, because they are just pops under the hood. So one thing that this means is that you can really easily add something like a regular feedback loop, because I wanted to make sure that this was going to be compatible with whatever other workflow anybody's using TouchDesigner with, and not kind of like having an opinionated framework that makes other people use my setup. So if let's just put in like a really light twist, and then we start this feedback loop. See, you could do this with noise instead of a twist. There's a ton of different things that you could do. And the point here is that these are operators that make working with splats easier. But then you can use regular TouchDesigner kind of workflow along with everything else. And so that really is pretty powerful, I think. And I'm sure will provide a lot of areas for exploration once people start to be able to use this. And so where I guess we'll end is the splat pipeline terminates in this splat geometry, which is a geo with a render material inside of it. And so this is actually what's going to be rendered in the render top. And what's great about that is it means you can copy and paste this and render different versions of different splats with different rendering parameters really easily without needing to kill your GPU memory and reload a bunch, like the same splat multiple times. So that's really handy and something that I found myself touching quite a bit. Couple different highlights on the render side of things. You got like all the normal parameters like splat size, but there are some other good stuff that I really am excited to talk about. One of them is this bokeh, which is great. It allows you to set a strength and a focal length and kind of scan through your scene really nicely. You can apply some additional parameters like this to kind of make it more like a uncovering or depth slicing of the scene, which is also pretty cool. We can also use a texture input to be able to do the same thing here. And we can combine that with another texture input, which actually determines whether or not we're rendering splat alpha or color and can compress the depth of field in the splats. And so these techniques can be added together. And here I just have two little rectangles that are animated. One of them is controlling the bokeh and the other is controlling the alpha as an example. So here's just the alpha, kind of like a X-ray type of effect. And yeah, the bokeh. I'll turn those off. We also have TouchDesigner lighting. So we have splat relighting. Finally, this is using this light. And if we change the color to like blue or purple or whatever, you can see that that's changing the render in real time. This light is just animating ever so slightly. You can also do things like color correction, which I guess it's kind of a mess right now. Yeah, color correction for the splats. And one of the other things that I really like is a chroma key. So you can actually select in the panel viewer and then use that selection to chroma key your splat, which is also kind of fun interactively, because if I go back here, you can kind of like, by clicking iteratively, like get yourself into some cool path-dependent chroma key looks. And so I've been experimenting with that and having a lot of fun. All of these are flaggable, and then I have some quantization as kind of like a final fun part of the render. So last thing that I have is this refractive pass that I have as an add-on. This will just take in any pop and allow you to refract through your scene. That is just like a nice bonus. So I think that's a pretty good high-level overview of everything. I'm very excited to get this out there and see what others can create using the pipeline and the framework. And also thank you to TDFam guys for making this possible and actually like enjoyable to work on developing.
Right, thanks. Like, this is super cool. I'm very excited for this. I think, yeah, based on the chat reactions, the relighting was a big highlight. That people were like, "Whoa,
good.
That's very sick."
Good to hear.
Support Lake over his Patreon. Okay, cool. We are getting close to the end. Yeah, at the end, I would also like to ask some questions to Derivative, and we will hear some comments from them, hopefully, about the future of operator families and packages and all that. So thanks to them also for sticking around, and hope everybody's enjoying the stream so far. Next up, we have Ethan Matterform coming up with blocks.
Hey guys, how's it going?
Hey.
You'll hear me? Sweet.
Yep, we hear you and see you.
Cool.
You're good to go.
Well, hey, thank you so much, guys, again, for, like many have said, just putting the time and effort into this. It's really funny because I was needing it very badly, but then I had not started, and then it was super timely because I got invited in here and it's like, oh, wow, now I have a lot of catching up to do. So a lot of these are more of a roadmap than they are necessarily fully operational. But what I've done is I've created an operator called blocks. Also, by the way, sorry, I'm Ethan from Matterform. We do a lot of physical, interactive, and immersive installations. So a big thing with our stuff is interoperability and workflow automation, because typically it's working with items that already exist and then integrating them into a space. So that's a big reason why we created blocks. So I'll show you guys blocks. Here's the palette right here. So we have lots of different things. The primary categories are content, IO, interactive, inputs, and outputs and utility. And content is for creating content. IO is for managing things coming in and out of the computer. Interactive is sort of like internal tools for effects and systems to do like blob tracking, 3D, any sort of tracking stuff. Also rendering those tracking systems. Those will probably get folded in into just like a tracker or a sensor. And then additionally, outputs are really important because I think that's a thing that people prep a system for an install, let's say, and then the big issue is you get there and then getting it on the screen becomes annoying. So, oh, nice, that's awesome. So then also utilities, these are a big one. So these are kind of like my internal tools that I'm deciding would be much better to be outside for everybody to have. And the big ones are auto calibration. So we have systems for auto calibrating, let's say the Orbec, for example. So it does a lookout point. You can click on that lookout point, and then it'll automatically figure out based on bearing angles precisely where it is in that space. So if you can create a ground truth on the ground, then you have an automation system for all of your sensors honing in, finding that point. The advantage of this type of workflow is that we're looking at this from like a long-term standpoint. So it's how do we create something that is easy to build, but also very easy to maintain and manage. And creating blocks is helpful because blocks are able to, that's funny, the auto chat was saying but like 30 times. The addition of this allows you to then manage things with little standards to remember instead of one gigantic system. So let's see S2. I'm not sure if that was regarding to LiDAR, but let me show you guys kind of some of the expected compatible platforms and how we're going to work. I'm sorry, the rest of the utility stuff. This one is grayed out, and that is because TDGDTF is a paid licensed system that we're releasing that we're very excited about. And I'll be showing you that in a little bit. But that's a huge software that works inside of this. This is aimed at creating components that are actually very easy to manage and maintain. So think of this as something that would like be used for building tours or sphere style shows where you have a bunch of render nodes that need to manage things. So that's the use case for this. In practice, we would do something kind of like this. I think I'm likely going to go with interconnected wires just to create a workflow, but they can kind of all exist. So that's the main advantage here. So we'd take something like a sensor, grab a LiDAR sensor. We could choose from the existing ones and that list will grow. And we'll take SlamTech, for example. We'd then render the SlamTech, put it into a blob tracker. It would then use my preferred methods and what I've found to be the most, consistent on site, and it would like refine the contrast. Then it would use a filter top to then manage. Filter top is a smoothener over time, so it's a time interpolator. We can then threshold through time, so we can actually trim clicks down to like if it's a button hold or versus if it's just noise that people are, let's say there's sensor noise or people are just tapping randomly and you don't want those to trigger. Then we'll downscale, put it into a blob tracker, ship that off, and then we can then do logic based on that using the output here. Oops. And that would also then have a cousin node that would then be able to interpolate that into like a UI click, for example. Then we could also do stuff like create particles, whatever. Then for outputs, this is really important. So you can see my whole render of my screen capture here. So if I go to create an output, this, let's say I have a drop-down menu system for everything that looks at what your hardware is. And we're going to throw this on my InnoView, and then we're going to open that as a separate monitor. And as you can see, that's opening that there. So now what we're going to do is we're going to shoot it over to Samsung, and now it's moved it over with a test pattern. So this would then have a linked window operator This window operator acts as kind of like a landing zone for another system, and that is a router. So this router allows us to then choose all of the outputs in our system, choose all of the inputs in our system, and then route from A to B. It's also dynamic, so you can scale as you need to. And this is really important because as we create a system, we want it to be able to patch and be managed remotely. And we'll be getting to that in a second with TDGDTF. We also have switchers. These are cool. You can do either direct links of the wires, or you can also use selects, and then you can set them directly via pulse, for example. And then other than that, we also have things like effects. So we have libraries for effects where there's like a gallery. Whoops, sorry, the one above here has it. For example, in here, we just have a simple media player. This will have generalized helpful tools for just like, hey, I want to load a library of these clips, please play them in order, or play them randomly. Then we have like an effects gallery where we can drop down and choose from different effects that are going to be pre-built into here. And then the main goal of this is that we now have a component here that has parameters. So eventually there'll be a promotion system where then once you've created your little network of things, you can then choose with the promote button to then put it up onto the destination target component with all of the links. So this is huge for then creating a single tox file, which then could be used on a show to be managed very easily. So that is kind of the general overview. We've got a bunch of operators in here. There's some projection automation stuff and a bunch of cool little things. Now, importantly, let's talk about TDGDTF really quick. So I'm gonna try to run through this, but what this is this is actually a web-based system for managing your block and your comps. So what this does is this actually can look through your network. So we're going to go in, we're going to grab blocks. We're going to find, what is this guy? My show. I think it's, here we go in there. And this is also a one-to-one of your network, which is kind of fun. Here, I'll search for it. It is my show. So we're going to choose this as our fixture, and then we move through here. We can then grab parameters, and you know, this isn't looking like it's going to work really well in here, but I'm going to be releasing tutorial videos and example videos of this as advertising soon. But essentially, we can then go through and manage and create a system for then patching and managing that as a DMX system. So the goal with TDGDTF and with other softwares that are going to be coming out for us are that we want to create things that people can integrate into existing pipelines, like live tours, for example, are a big one. We want to make something that people can come in with confidence, and also the tour manager and the LD and all the other people who are going to be working with you feel comfortable with your workflow. So it's not a question of like, hey, we're really feeling on the edge about this, we'll try it out. It's like, hey, this competes with Disguise, Pixera, Hippo, all of the other media servers. So this workflow will be a paid platform in the future with a license-based system, and very excited about that. There's a whole licensing system, so this guy can't be copy and pasted or spammed. But yeah, this is kind of a general overview of blocks. The other operator family that I'm planning on making as well is up here, and these are just all of our general like super help kind of assists that are like, hey, managing measurements between positions, or like auto menu, which is a really handy one for creating those drop downs automatically, or auto timer, which does scripts based on boots and delays, or documenter, which is a documentation assister, so that can like be fed to a LLM and then auto create documentation for your toxes, things like that. So yeah, this is a general overview kind of blocks as a workflow, but overall these will essentially just act as like little op snippets that are really tried and true and tested in advance. So yeah. thank you guys for having me on. I appreciate the time.
Thank you, Ethan.
Yeah.
I have to throw in a little anecdote here because Ethan has just recently become a dad, so he's been really pushing for this, and it's really funny because internally in our group we have been calling the developers daddies of the families, and yeah, there's actually 2 real daddies in here, I think, at least.
What's up, Joseph?
Yeah, and it's also funny because we wish we could have mummies also. So like, if there's any TDFam mummies out there, don't hide that these are looking for mummies or something like that. Okay.
We need all the help we can get.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Cool.
Thanks, Dan.
Thank you for the presentation. Really pro stuff. Yeah, GDTF I think will be really interesting for those working with lights and all that. Yeah, next up we have Edwin Alagast. Are you here with us? Yes.
Are you hearing me?
Yes, we can hear you.
Okay, do you see my screen?
Mm-hmm. We can test your audio also, I guess, because Edwin is also sharing an audio family.
Yeah. Let me check. You hear something?
Yeah, you're good to go.
Cool. Okay. Okay, so hi everybody. I'm Edwin Alagast. I am a guitarist and a musician based in Italy. I think nobody know me because I was around in TouchDesigner since 2017, but I have worked a lot in the high school and public school. But when I discovered some weeks ago that Luka and Dan and Lyall are making these amazing families, I try to contact and thank you for having me this night, because I try to develop for TouchDesigner this family that, as you can see, is aimed for audio and multi-channel audio. I came up with this idea after some lesson in high school where the students don't properly understand well pure data, max MSP, and I found that TouchDesigner, which is design of viewing the waves, could be a nice environment to teach music. Also, I was inspired by Max MSP multi-channel paradigm, so I tried to replicate inside in TouchDesigner. As you can see, I use, of course, the TDFam, but I have hacked a little because my operators are written in C++. So I try to make something really, really easy to install these plugins. You just drop the folder where I share the plugins. You push the pulse that install automatically in the folder. You see that I'm using a Mac OS. I'm trying to porting also in Windows ecosystem, and of course these plugins, as you can see, I hope you see in the custom tab. But with this hack that I did inside TDFam, I was able to register, and you don't see anymore here, and all the operators stand here. And as you can see, my operators try to make the audio system inside TouchDesigner using the classic paradigm of generator, filters, FX, and envelope generator utility that I talk about how I handled all this stuff inside TouchDesigner. And this 2 beast is where I started, because the 3rd March, there was the 303 acid day, so I tried to make that inside TouchDesigner. Now I want to try on a little thing, because I want that you see.
You should share your whole screen, not just TouchDesigner, because the OP Create dialog cannot be seen if you share only Touch application.
Okay.
Yeah.
Okay.
Thanks for for pointing that out.
Okay, I go on. You can see this. You can see my hands.
Yeah. We just don't see the OP create dialog. Is the thing we don't see.
Okay. Okay. I go to. I let you hear something. Okay, and here you can see. You can see my acid operator. I just let you hear what this does. You have heard something? I hope. So,
very cool.
Okay, so just to a little brief of what this does. You can see the OP, okay, this parameter. You can see that it's a C++ plugin. So we have some parameters integrated. And basically, why I started to develop this thing, because here you can see I use 4 pixel, which with all the 3 colors, but each color is a parameter that control each instancing, like the J-instancing of one voice. So my idea was to control each voice independently and find a system that was able to control a lot of parameters in real time. And to explain better this stuff, I prepared this because if somebody of you have tried to work with audio inside TouchDesigner knows this, that you can make many channels you want. For instance, for this audio oscillator, you can change the pitch independently, but sometimes I'm asked why I can't change the amplitude. To do this, you have to make maybe a math with some other operation and do this along. Another problem that I come with this system is that maybe I want to control each voice independently, and maybe, I don't know, I want the first voice is a sine, the second voice is a Gaussian, the third voice is a triangle. The only way that I know to do this is using a Python script. But this is not, this kill my group, because I can't write the Python script to make music. I need this using like a MIDI controller and change every parameters. So this is my M6 oscillator. You can see that this operator has a lot of functionalities. I started to develop this 2 months ago. And for instance, if I want to change the pitch of this oscillator, I can use this operator to say, okay, I want to change pitch. I write the pitch, I change, and you can see that it's the same functionality of before. But let's say that I want instantiate now 4 voices. I just up this, and now I have 4 voices that I can control independently. As before, I said, okay, I want to change the amplitude. How I can do here is super simple, because you just say, okay, I want to change the amp. And now this iterate other 4 channels that is paired with the suffix. And now I can change the amplitude of each one. But this is not an out, because I want to change each waveform. So how can do? I have to change these parameters, but you can see there is a lot, and sometimes I forget how call them. So I try to do this stuff where each operator can have some info, where you can see clearly which are the name of a parameter that you can change. So I see here that is waveform. So I call this waveform, And now, if I go to my slot C, I can change each waveform independently. As you can see, okay. So this is the first step. Having all these operators that can understand this language. And the second big problem is that in TouchDesigner, you don't have a consistent way to communicate with the audio operator, because each one has some particularities that don't share the same architecture. So I try to make this stuff using this mode. To explain this, you can see this. The suffix are the channels numbered, so I can maybe make this stuff, I don't know, to control the pitch of each voice of oscillator, maybe it's 1000. And then I want to do the same for the amplitude. Where is the problem here? The problem is that, okay, I have a lot of channels, but I can't understand very well because there are a lot, right? So also you can see that it's all the same because LFO needs some randomization, and this is where I was inspired by MaxMSP to distribute them. So you can see that already this for me is a visual. And this is the way why I like to see the sound inside TouchDesign, because you can see straight ahead you. So this is the first type of data. You have the second type of data that, in my opinion, is the instancing friendly, the array, where you say this, the pitch are the parameters that I want to control. Each sample is the instancing of oscillator. So here you can see clearly what kind of data you are controlling, and you see that you can having a lot of parameters without lost your mind. And another thing that I really like about this system, of course I told this for the audio, but you can mangling the data. For instance, I have done this wave folder. This is a classic effect from synthesizer, but you can mangle the data using the wave folding. So here I call this array, and now if I restart the animation, yes. And now I skip up the folder, you can see that you can fold in your data. So my idea is creating a system that share the logic of audio, but you can use also to make some mangling of your data. And this, for instance, you can translate like a chop. Maybe I make this a fit square, and now you can see some pattern. Maybe it's not so defined, but this operator optimized to work with a lot of channels. If I try again, you can see that now I start to have some pattern interesting that you can mangle. Okay. So this is the main idea of this operator. To listen some example, I have prepared this sum. Maybe I'm out of time. I hope to do faster, just to let you see here something. Okay. For instance, we have the sampler. Everyone know what is a sampler, and everybody know this sample. Okay. Now here I can change, for instance, the pitch, and I can change here. I make some algorithm that keep the time but change the pitch. And if you want, you can have multiple voices. And this is super easy to do because the system is harmonized to understand the type of data you put inside. Another sample that I want to show you is something that I shared recently on Instagram. This is a stress test. about how can handle this operator between the native audio oscillator. Here I have texture with 64 by 64 pixels, so we have 4096 sample. I hope that doesn't crash. So just to sake of demonstration, you can see that I have 40,096 sample. Okay, maybe with the screen share this doesn't go below this rate, but you can see it's really high. Okay, now I try to do the same. We have this time you try to do the same with the native one, and you see that value is much bigger. What means this? It means that maybe in a much better scenario that is not this, because I'm sharing with you the screen, but you can see that I'm still in 30 FPS. I can make the sound mapping each pixel for each oscillator. I would try to let you hear this sample. So I stop here because I have out time already, but I hope that you understand what I have done. If you are curious, follow me on Patreon, because there is where I share my developments. Thank you.
Thank you, Edwin. Beautiful. That was, especially the end, was just, yeah, I could listen to that for ages, for sure. And also people love your accent and your voice. So yeah, keep on making videos, I guess, and podcasts. Cool. Great. Thank you very much. We have our final presenter, Lyall with LOPS.
Yes,
Lyall,
yes.
Are you here? Yes. Great.
So just gonna throw this out there. My screen share is only letting me select the window, so you won't be able to see the app create dialog, which is just too bad. Because I do have, I have.
You can open up /UI /
screen
dialogues.
Grab. True.
And just
or just do a screen grab of your window.
I think this is better. Like just right click on the.
Yeah, you're right. Right there.
Or
you can right click on the whole window. Yeah.
Or I'll just zoom in here because it'll open the window.
There's a problem. You cannot have a window. Okay.
But yeah, we got some LOPS. So, I originally posted the, alpha version. I have not posted anything beyond the alpha version. I haven't posted a LOPS update since September. There is likely going to be coming one within the next couple hours. And there also is a dev version on Discord that some people have been testing and having good results with. So that's feeling good to get on Patreon. But yeah, so if anyone has been familiar with what LOPS are, initially, I wanted to bring kind of playing with agents and tools and seeing how they can interact with the TouchDesigner runtime live in TouchDesigner. About a year and a half ago, I did a presentation in DatLab, almost like over a year ago now, and it was crazy to look at the video because I think LOPS had like 20 operators, and almost all of them were these modifiers that basically just adjust like this basic table format. So there's like it all kind of started with this idea that I could break the role, the message, the ID, the timestamp into a table in Touch becomes like almost a DAT format, if you will, and then you can manipulate that in the network. The simplest way was like, all right, cool. The agent gets a table. Maybe you would add a message, which I'm not going to do that now because that'll take too long. And then you call the agent. This evolved into a tool set of a handful of TouchDesigner based tool operators, connects to any sort of LLM in any provider through a library called Light LLM. And yeah, so it existed like this for a while. It was almost my like play area for integrating some of these more confusing, almost like new tech things like engineering with LLMs. What does a tool mean? How, like, what does the system prompt control versus like a tool definition versus your input prompt? And now LOPS has kind of changed a little bit. I would say it's more positioned not necessarily as a like, oh, AI in touch or just LLMs in touch. I'm thinking of it as a, it has an LLM framework, but it is also a general logic and complex module authoring system. So we'll get there in a minute, but there's a lot of LOPS now in the new set, which I think it's like 90 or so components, maybe 80 custom operators, but many of them you can have you or your agents writing modules to expand, build your own LOPS, build any sort of LOP, and integrate with the system. But I'm going to try to go through all of these little bases that I prepared. So like one of the basic ideas is this agent operator. There's a bunch of parameter pages. There are 3 types of agents also. There's a voice agent, which gets mic in, mic out, or audio out. Then there's a Claude Code agent, which connects to Claude Code CLI directly, but it all controls from TouchDesigner. I have more coming out soon that I don't need to talk about, but they will all generally take this shape. So there's like the first page, which is like the IO. Second page is model configuration. Third page is your tools. Then you have skills, which if you're familiar with skills with Claude's, like Anthropic's Claude model, this kind of takes after that, but it also adds the idea of dynamic skills. So you can write Python that does either even executes things in your network or dynamic gathers context for the model. I have a profile system, which basically just sets all the parameters for the models, but they're composable. So you can like stack the profiles. Oh, don't mind me finding a bug. This is one reason why the Discord talks has an _dev. There's going to be a Patreon one posted later today without that little naming caveat. But then if you, like this agent is connected to 3 tools, TD code, which is basically just Python execute, tool runtime is actually not included. So maybe not the best to have in this example, but it's a super simple small tool where the model can write its own live runtime API live. So basically defines what it wants to do, and then it writes a module that it can call later. And earlier in this example, it created itself a to-do tracker. So that then that is a tool that is in the runtime module. That's too complicated to explain. Tool dat edits stats, but then I can maybe undo that. In the agent, there's also persistent session now, but I can clear the session, call the thing, and ask it, can you check my project for errors? And it scanned the project. It's now saying that I have 0 errors because this is a nice and clean project. And you can see it called this TD network module, grabbing the errors, and it got 0 error counts. Moving on to a different type of agent. This is like the voice agent, which I also didn't enable audio, but you see like a little mic in, I can hit connect and I can say, hello, what's up? Hopefully this works. All right, I'm going to disconnect from that voice agent, but the voice agent, similarly, kind of your IO, your model configuration. You also have playback, but tools, skills, profiles, callbacks. life cycle, but you don't actually have to think about that because all of these are cloud providers. Voice agent also, you can use Grok, Gemini, OpenAI, or Hume. I would say a little less powerful potentially as far as the tool calling, but I'm going to have some example projects and some demos where you can have the voice agent be like a trigger, pops up, it knows about like kind of what you're working on, it can adjust and update expressions potentially. I think I've seen a lot of, or I'll get to that in a second. This is another one that's kind of a larger setup in a network, but it uses the speech to text and the text to speech LOP, which are also generalized. Previously, I had a bunch of different providers in these operators. Now, each one of them come with different providers. And when you change this, it actually updates what parameters are available on the second page. So also just having fun with crazy TouchDesigner, parameter management, and dynamic updating. All of these providers, you can link a custom provider profile folder. So I will be releasing guides on the API that you need to write for this. But right now, like as soon as I release it, you'll be able to author your own providers for speech to text and text to speech through this general interface as well. But this setup also has the voice activity, which has, I'm just listing features, echo cancellation. So this is a fully local, won't connect to the cloud if you don't want it. If you have a local model, I don't have it selected here, but if I put in a custom server, then this can become a fully isolated, not connected to the internet, voice-to-voice loop, instead of using like the voice agent that's built in, but you can build these parts out of the smaller parts in LOPS. Another thing that I've seen a lot of people doing with like LLMs or like Claude Code or Codex in LOPS is connecting that through to TouchDesigner via some sort of MCP portal. So I have that also in LOPS, and similarly, this is kind of a module layer thing where you can author your own servers. So the MCP client is basically the thing that connects to the servers externally, and it exposes the tools as tools to LOPS agents. Then the MCP server, you can write TouchDesigner Python code with the same fast MCP tool shorthand stuff that they have, and that is something that the LLMs are very familiar with now. So it bridges the gap, and this makes MCPs authorable as well. And then you manage the runtime here. This can connect to external agents, or it can connect to LOPS. You can also use the tool manager as a wrapper to wrap more LOPS tools to MCP servers externally or to LOPS agents. This is, it might make sense for some people, but if you want to even take the MCP server, create your own MCP server, expose that, wrap it in the tool manager, and then expose all of those tools together as a single MCP server to an external agent, you do that with the tool manager. And you can even route external MCP servers through the MCP client, through the tool manager, into an MCP server that connects to Claude Code. So lots of stuff there. The flow system is a state machine system that has a flow controller, which is like you set up your steps, flow router, which can take a table, code, or these like just input phrases or a chop. And yeah, state machines. There's more to show there, but I'm not going to talk too much. Agent swarms. You can run an agent that is in control of these two other agents. This is just a simple test where it's basically saying, make sure the agents can say, hey, back, and they did. Status swarm complete.
Sorry, Lyall, we'll have to maybe cut you off a bit earlier because Derivative needs to leave, and would like to get some comments from them and stuff like that. So
No, I mean
maybe we can circle back as at the end as the like free form ending. I think a lot of people want to see more LOPS.
Yeah, that also pretty much actually covers all the stuff. But yeah. I will be releasing much more information and short videos soon.
Great, amazing. I mean, I've been kind of following LOPS development because we chat quite often with Lyall, and we always end up talking about what he's working on, also. And I'm just always amazed by the stuff.
Yeah,
so.
I'm. It's not maybe the best, but I'm very good at working hard and not marketing myself. So, yeah.
Same, brother. All right. Yeah, thanks a lot. This have been all the TDFam families for now. I hope more are coming. And yeah, I also wanted to, since we have some derivative people here, to get their idea on it or how they look at TDFam and going forward, maybe with like in the 5 minutes that we have, where they see this kind of evolving and developing and how they see custom operator families be integrated to the native experience. We have Jarrett here, and Marcus already left, I think, and Greg and Isabel.
Hey guys, sorry, I was just trying to find the unmute button. Can you guys hear me?
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
Yeah, thanks for showing us all this amazing work. Quite mind-blowing. And yeah, I was excited the first time I saw what Joseph had done with T3D, and I'm not surprised it's now proliferated like this, that technique. On our side, we've known about this problem, which is that people want to be able to create their own systems. And I think we're all used to working like this with Python and things like that, and that's done through a package manager. And we're working on a package system. And I can't even predict when it's going to come out publicly. So hopefully this will, this kind of architecture that you guys have developed will at least tide us over till then. And then in the future, you know, how op families, how these things are sort of communicated to the users, it's not clear. So I think this will certainly be an inspiration for the future, where you can have, everyone can have different sorts of families that are connecting together. It's interesting, some of these systems are components still, others are actually C++ operators, which I thought was quite interesting as well. We, you know, technically an op in TouchDesigner is a C++ single operator, but so yeah, I mean, otherwise, other than just saying that the package manager is a thing, it's coming out, the main objectives is trying to support is the ability to upgrade or to add Python dependencies, which I don't think any of these packages I saw depend on any external Python dependencies. And so we're trying to deal with that.
Probably does.
Yeah.
It does, or some of them do?
Yeah, I'm using some external Python stuff.
Okay, cool.
Yeah.
Nice. So you've figured out how to deal with that on your own.
Yeah, I do it all through UV, and it isolates and puts itself after the TD-sys. So you guys still get precedent in that, and then I get to deal with it. But it's been really smooth, actually.
Yeah, UV is pretty great. Agreed.
I've got a little bit of it, but it's just like text, like modules, basically, like deep embedded into the tool itself, which can get clunky. So that'd be really nice to have the package manager.
Yeah, and then the other thing connected to package manager is obviously we want to be able to update things. Is there an update pathway, Dan, that you thought through? As far as like version 1, version 2, if somebody's deployed an op in their file already, what's the pathway to upgrade to version 2?
When it comes to like major versions, we were thinking about some ways to like gate certain things. But when it comes to also the whole update mechanism, as far as operators, we don't give a mechanism to update remotely operators. But when it comes to the registry, we do it from GitHub. Yeah.
Mm-hmm. And then for the individual families, there's the op comp where you can embed them in your project, then the op folder. So like with LOPS, I have like my own R2 bucket sign-in thing, and I can launch individual updates that can be downloaded to the op folder. And we have logic in TDFam to match and take the highest version. So if you download a Tox version 2.0 or 2.0.0, it'll be version 1.0.0 in your op comp. So there is full family update via TDFam, and then also like almost per op update based on that version.
Cool. Yeah. So, yeah, I think that's the main sort of thing. Those are the two relevant things that we're working on to that will make this sort of workflow better. And then certainly, the UI system, the ability to just get at operators directly instead of having to go in the palette. I completely get that as well. So, yeah, it's very inspiring and looks like a whole new world ahead of us. So that's it for me. I don't know if Greg wants to say anything else. Greg's audio's not working.
Hear him, yeah.
Unmute him, Dan. I think you did it earlier.
Oh, he's muted.
Yeah. I don't know if you guys can hear me, but
That's better.
Yeah, can hear you and the sirens.
Are there sirens in Toronto right now behind you guys?
Sounded like we heard Isabel for a second.
I think you might have muted Greg manually.
No, I'm definitely unmuting.
Greg, are you?
He's also dropping in and out constantly, so I'm not sure.
you can hear me. I'll just say
Yeah, we can hear you.
Greg has had a lot of difficulty joining with sound. Greg, you can come and use my screen.
Does. I can, yeah.
I do a lot of tech support, guys, in case you haven't figured that out yet.
For sure.
How about now?
We can hear you through Isabel.
The TD Stream toolkit coming out next.
Yeah.
Okay, let's
families.
It's not a bad idea.
okay, let's see.
Okay,
Yeah.
cool.
All
We're
right.
together. First of all, I want to thank you guys for, first of all, recognizing, long delay. First of all, recognizing that there's this kind of organization problem that started occurring when people started making their own component groups and stuff. So in your natural way of trying to organize things, Dan, you pulled it all together with Lyall. So I really appreciate you doing that for the community. And also, I would really want to thank all the contributors of the families. Like, you really blew my mind with some of the things you've done to extend TouchDesigner way beyond what the basics give you. So it's really amazing to see your vision and extending stuff from there. Do you have any questions? Other questions of us? Sorry.
Not us. Well, not me specifically, because we've talked about this. We have some tickets for derivative, which we have sent over. So we will communicate about that. I don't know about the daddies, if they have any questions right now, or
Actually, I have a question back for you guys.
Yeah.
For a new user, what's the entry point to realizing that this tool set exists and the user experience of deciding the first family you want to adopt? What's that sequence look like?
In terms of like using TDFam, I think we showed in the beginning it's very easy, but maybe Lyall, you have a question over there.
Yeah, no, I think one of the most basic uses could be if you just have a folder of operators. I mean, potentially even if you didn't make them all yourself, but they're just your go-to things, like your palette folder, and dropping that in like my go-to fam. That's probably too long of a name, just saying, but dropping that in as like my fam or something, and then just having that in your op create dialog could be like the like basic user. I think the way we've thought about it is maybe not necessarily discovering TDFam and then thinking, how am I going to build a family? It's very much kind of for the developers here to feel like if they have an idea, they don't have to think about authoring all of the logic to insert this into Touch, and then they can just hit the ground running. And then there's a couple things like we have like built-in keyboard shortcuts, and we have like a single keyboard in execute that looks, and you can write your own callback scripts for little simple keyboard shortcuts. So there's like extensions and callbacks and these little methods that also can inspire the developers to go much farther than like inventing that stack themselves.
So as a new user that is choosing T3D as the first thing that they've ever used, and they don't even know about TDFam per se, they just go to Joseph's Patreon, they get T3D. If they follow those instructions, they're immediately going to be using TDFam without per se knowing. Is that right? And that's kind of the entryway. Okay. And then the second time they go to somebody else's, you've just made that seamless. So the next op family will plop in if they follow those instructions from that set.
Yeah, there is obviously, I think there are a lot of, or not maybe a lot, but there's a handful of other people that have released tools and might be doing certain things like modifying the base install of Touch. Our component is designed to insert itself at runtime and be fully like play really nicely with your base install of Touch. So part of that is then to handle all of that conflict layer for people. So a user that is like, oh, I have TouchDesigner installed, I want to install 5 different families, then they don't have to think about at all or worry about their TouchDesigner installation breaking or having any issues from that. And then
I like a question idea about it. It'd almost be kind of like the community factor of like what you guys already do by like running a community page could be like a way to discover existing op families and stuff like that. So that way it doesn't turn into like a million sidebar conversations, but there's kind of like a highlight of like, this has been proven, because obviously you guys built a tool that's provable. Like this has been proven as trusted, and also like this developer is cool and we'd like to show their work. So that might be like a method for like discovery on top of the existing thing. And obviously there's paywalls and not paywalls mixed in with that, but I think it could be kind of a cool like discovery base for it.
Yeah,
where you experience that is a question. I don't know.
Well, that is kind of the interesting part about how we've separated TDFam create, like the talks that the developers drop into their project, and then inside that has the registry. The registry is kind of a separate release on GitHub, and it will auto update for the users. So we don't have exact plans. The plan is to keep everything extremely forwards, backwards compatible too. But there could be routes where the registry then ships with a registry of known families, and maybe even just like download links for them, not even managing the download for you, But this, yeah.
Yeah, so a lot of this sounds familiar with packages and what we're doing right now.
Which I also don't necessarily want to journey into the land of package management, because that is a whole nother.
It's a thing.
Just, yeah. I mean, Dan and I, like the updates and stubs, there were so many discussions about like what gets updated versus what gets stubbed. When is this useful? And what could be backwards compatibility issues? But like adding the package manager side on top of that is a whole nother layer of like us responsibly like saying,
yeah, and I
hey,
think leaning on UV for the Python part of it, I think is completely acceptable for now, right?
Once I realized that I could take UV and then have multiple virtual environments that share the same packages, but they're isolated, and then they all have UV sync files. Like with LOPS, I have this sidecar system. So anything that imports Torch or does anything runs in a sub process. So it runs out of touch in an isolated sidecar. And I ship with, basically I just ship with like 5 UV sync files. And then when the user wants to run them, it UV syncs and it creates a virtual environment. It's wild.
That's how I'm working a lot too. I agree.
I think also, sorry, when it comes to like the updates and packages and like people were asking in the chat, like a store, like something where you can find TD families and like buy them and things like this. Also, why we didn't start going down this road and like we didn't like dip our toes into this too much. It's because we know that at one point Derivative is going to come up with something. I mean, the package manager we already knew is something that's coming, and everything that comes with the package manager would be then handled kind of natively. So I think that's also just to answer some questions also in the chat.
Yeah, it's you've relieved some pressure. I think for allowing the community to kind of start building. We've always envisioned a workflow like this, and I think it just never really manifested until I think this is going to really crystallize things and make people realize that they can make a compatible set of components that do things right. And you guys have, it's amazing. Just this organizational shift is all that was kind of needed to maybe make people realize, oh, this is a way I can work. I mean, immediately when I was looking at the component, I put it down just today. I was like, oh, well, I'm going to immediately make my set of ops just for myself, even though I don't even plan to release it. But just I have a bunch of things that I always have lying around, certainly in the palette and stuff like that, that I would just move over there, right? So, so I think it's great. But I hopefully, like, this is just a crossfade. I think it's going to be a crossfade to the package manager and the future and all that. So this effort might have its own legs forever, right? It might just wrap the package manager and in some way or another over time. Who knows, right? So,
sure.
Yeah, and I think, I mean, just in general, like the way that people learn TouchDesigner or the approach at it, a lot of it's through tutorials where it's flat networks, which isn't bad. It's a very good way to like learn how data flows in Touch. But like being presented with like a set of parameter facing UIs that then tie together, and then just even figuring out how those tools work together is a tutorial in itself. And this is like packaging information in a different way. And like, I mean, I'm bad at releasing video tutorials, but I think I'm pretty good at making parameter UIs. So a lot of people have done crazy things with LOPS, and I'm like, oh my God, how'd you do that? I guess you figured it out through the operators themselves.
Right. Yeah, that's dope when that happens. Yeah.
I think there's, I'm not saying I'm not going to release tutorials because my parameter UIs are just that great. They're not. But
I think it's a fair point, though. And also, it forces, if everyone's working this way, it forces good style, which is that you don't really want to know what's going on inside everyone's components, right? You just want to know that it works well at the top level. And therefore, the stuff on the inside is also open to be changed by the developer, right? And improved, optimized.
I mean, so many of my discussions with Dan, like we've known each other, been chatting about TD tooling for like 3 years, but like so much of it is just sharing little extension tricks or little wacky UI things or little discoveries about touch. So like, yeah, these techniques and stuff, I think surface in like complex studio workflows, internal pipelines. Like people are sharing these things in TouchDesigner, but not necessarily as like releasing them as toolkits or as general workflows. So yeah, I mean, the best examples have been like the Pops examples and stuff where people put together the like almost palette style or snippet style, like super projects. And that's really cool to see. But yeah, this is definitely a different packaging method.
Yeah, it's a level up from really organized projects because it's components that other people can use, right? And they're, you know, in the longer term, it needs to be easy for people to update them and know that their versions have changed and all that stuff. But that's what we're going to figure out over the next 2 years for sure. So we're all stepping in the same direction together here. So
I have a little question. Something we've been talking about in the like chat around these families is like how to properly license these things and think about like whether to lock the components or, you know, basically how do you work with sharing these open tools? And I guess that's a broader question for any sort of release, but I'm curious if you guys have thoughts about that and how that'll work with the potential package manager.
Yeah, it depends on the circumstance. There's a wide array of things. I think it's just best to community express what those are. You can lock your component, sure. Now people can't look at your network. That works for a lot of things. It doesn't work in cases where it's being used by other people in the field, often because they're like, if I can't get in there and fix something, then I can't, unless they know that they can trust it. I know a lot of places in professional world that won't use locked components, and I get that. So licensing is the thing. Opens, you have the same, so once you unlock the component and you're licensing it, you can refer to GitHub and all the licensing schemes that exist there are for GitHub in the open source community. That you have the same issues there. And so I think I would just defer to that world for licensing. At the other end, there are opportunities that you can create a code meter license for your system, right? So if you want to do that, if you're really getting serious about your ops set, your tool set, and you really want to protect it properly, I think just reach out to us. And there's avenues to protect things using, you could add for example, you can add a code directly to the code meter dongle that works with TouchDesigner, Notch, all of those guys, and Disguise all use that same code meter dongle. So that's an avenue as well. And you can do your own research on that if you just look at code meter, the website code meter for that. Third is obviously figure out your own licensing circumstance, which there's opportunities. There are solutions out there. So you can look, just, you know, work with a AI agent on that maybe to see what's out there. Yeah, so, and then the other one that I thought was really cool was the fact that, Alagast, the last presentation was C++ operators. And that's another way, which is becoming more a reality, I think, that people will be, maybe some of these are prototypes for future C++ operators. That's a great way to protect your stuff. So, because a lot of this is business logic, right? And you're working through, you know, you're a professional working in the field, and you're really tuning an architecture, and you're hardening it, and then it's becoming components, and then it's so stable that you can release it to the public, and then it's almost becoming more and more rigid, and then you can start to think about things like that as well. Hardening things into C++ is a real opportunity, I think. So that's a big spectrum of different opportunities there for protection.
Yeah, I've been thinking about C++ operators and how they hide the business logic and all the IP. And that's how kind of a unique way to look at tool building also, and even translating some Python-based logic into C++ for that reason. Yeah, especially now with all the LLM stuff coming out, people wanna close a little bit more their logic and not put it out for anyone to scrape.
Yeah, I think that's the tragedy of this, you know, the new world that we live in that we didn't ask for, but nevertheless, we have to pay attention and accept what it is that it's going to be, you know, I think this community was kind of driving in a more share-oriented mentality. And I think that it's just, I mean, Google doesn't let their staff write papers anymore, right? So like, it's just, everything's going to become more and more closed up, but I don't know. We got to find the balance somewhere, but
it's interesting that it'll be like, here's a closed license system, but then how we use it is open. So there's like a small barrier of entry fee. But then, for instance, like Popex has like amazing multiple tutorial examples where people are like from all over using it. But then the barrier of entry fee is like $5, for example, which is kind of funny. I think it's great that we're in that world, but it's also all kind of leaning on trust on the average Joe to like be a good person and to like not just transfer files to each other. So the licensing thing is a very interesting circle, and that with TDGDTF, the tool I was showing earlier, like that's a huge factor for us because it's an expiry basis where it's like you have 30 days, you have 90, 365. And because you're paying for the time it's being used, not necessarily owning it, there's like a big question to it. So yeah, it's like something that I don't think there is a right answer for, because you can't say there's like a right answer on how to use TouchDesigner. Yeah, somewhat. I mean, I'm sure you guys all have opinions, and I think that's a good thing. Like we all should. But yeah, it's an interesting thing where it's like, if it was too closed, it might be useless to some people. I was curious in general, like, how do we avoid a world where we go down similar paths but have just slight differences, where it's like, as developers, while you guys are developing a software, where we actually like kind of split in a bad way potentially? Like we want to align well, integrate well. Like, what are your thoughts on that?
Yeah, I worry about that constantly.
I bet.
And bifurcation is the right sort of word to kind of describe the concern. This is a good example of a potential bifurcation. I like how it's kind of centrally located, and I like that we're communicating right now about this. And I like the fact that you guys are okay with the package manager coming, and that you guys were already aware of that. And so I think a lot of that is communication, right? I also notice when we're developing things, we take a long time to do them. And as we go, we'll incrementally release and tune TouchDesigner so that it's more aligned with that possibility. And then the closer we get to that possibility, our users are like, okay, like I'm going to get there tomorrow, or like in the next month or two, and they'll get there quicker. And so we kind of manifest that to a certain degree, right? So you manifest that, but so then it is really a lot of it is about communication, and also not trying on our end. We try not to do too much. We try not to get too fancy, and try to keep things down to the metal as much as possible, without kind of getting too oriented towards different paradigms and user interface and stuff. We're a small company, so that's sort of,
you can't like out nerd 100,000 nerds. Like it's impossible.
Don't try. Yeah. Don't try to out nerd people. Yeah. And that's why this is inspiring to see that you got, like, everyone has their own interests and like that really, to let that breathe well is key. I mean, you know, you guys kind of make our life easier when there's huge industries that you guys are like opening up for TouchDesigner, and both in rendering and in ML and all this stuff and different techniques. So yeah, we need to stay focused. I think in derivative, we look at our tool as a tuned small nucleus, and then focus on the things that really matter. Like if there is, it seems like there is a little bit of we should probably be paying a little bit more attention to some more stepping off points in the spectrum of licensability. That's kind of what I'm taking away here, where like, you know, we know we can lock components. Sure. Okay, fine. Yes, you can make C++ operators. Okay, what are the other ways that we can protect our IP, but still maintain an open environment for people to kind of use these nodes? I think that's great. So, and I think it's cool that TouchDesigner is now, we're thinking of TouchDesigner as making ops itself. It's like touch making ops. Sure, they're components, but like that's the workflow. Like being able to collapse things back down and continue on. It's an infinite thing, right? So building on top of each other. So I don't know. Sorry, I'm rambling now, but
no, that's really helpful. It's interesting.
Yeah,
I think in one of our not super initial, but just a recent conversation, we had a short little call with Greg and a couple other people, but he was like, I don't know if they're families, because technically like TouchDesigner already has and it was a good point, but it is, yeah, I mean, they are like groups of components, I think, but
yeah, it's probably more like concentric circles, right? It's more like, we know that there's the operators that are made in C++ by derivative. And I would say that that's probably the central circle. And then there's things that we haven't seen enough of, I think. I thought we would have seen more over the years, is C++, community-based C++ operators, which we saw a little bit of today, but that core nucleus is what? It's C++, right? And I think that's still, that ball of engineering still exists, and it's real. And then there's this other layer, which I think you guys have exposed better than we did, which is that people want to create families of operators themselves, either for themselves, for their companies, for their personal selves, for their companies, and for sharing and for selling and so on, right? And so like that's the big change today, is that we're admitting that that's a real workflow, and that we should really kind of think hard about how to keep that to keep the momentum going in the right direction. Sure, we're making package manager, it's going to get better. Sure, okay, let's get better licensing capabilities. Let's make sure that this isn't confusing for people. Let's, like you said, bifurcation, and like let's not let this become confusing, right? And I don't know what we need to do to ensure that, but we can tune it over time, right? So, and updatability and management for users is of critical importance. But that, again, like I said, our package manager, it needs to be able to enable you guys to do that. So.
Yeah, and like, I mean, yeah, we're looking forward to also the communication side of it, and like you're almost saying, like iterating live for you in what, like how families that are user authored could work and how they would fit. Yeah. The reason to like bring this and generalize it was both because it was necessary, because anyone that dropped T3D into LOPS, it would delete LOPS, but also just because like Dan and I talked to him, and it was like, oh, this is actually, it's kind of a cool like engineering question. and let's get dirty for a little bit. And
I think a lot of it was that it wasn't necessarily out of necessity that we did a lot of the features. I mean, in the end, they became necessary if we look at it back now.
Yeah.
But as we were doing it, we were a little bit more like, can we actually solve this? Is this going to be useful? Probably, maybe. But if we saw a point of generalization, then we just went for it because for sure it's going to be useful in the future for somebody at some point.
Yeah, absolutely. And it's good. I'm happy to hear that you used some restraint with how far deep you went with it. You didn't get too far into, like, for example, store stuff or massive websites with user interfaces and stuff. So
yeah, I mean, it's not a marketplace. It's a framework to primarily for the developers that are on the call here and the viewers watching to make their own stuff and release their own tool sets. I will say there also is just like licensing, it's Apache 2.0, but there's a little notice. Just want to throw that out there that we do want some just simple attribution on project pages if you use it, but that's about it. But yeah, it is a free and open source thing available now on GitHub for people to use.
Great. Well, this has been really interesting, the conversation, and yeah, there were some comments in YouTube that we should do this more often, and yeah, definitely it would be nice to have more of these discussions going on. I think they're really important when it comes to how the community is going and where it's heading and where the world is heading, and that these channels are kept open in a software where for me it's all about the community. Like, I wouldn't be doing this if the community wasn't as such. And there are some shifts happening, and yeah, we need to kind of keep together and put our heads together how we can maintain the state that we like, or maybe it's not the right state, maybe it's an evolution thing, but yeah, from my side, I really value the openness and that you can just go into anybody's operator and kind of get some ideas from them, not steal ideas obviously, but you can learn a lot from looking at other people's components. That's how I learned a lot of my Python extension stuff, from looking at AlphaMoon based tools, from Olib and all these, and yeah, just kind of going through GitHub and finding all the repos, and that's a big part of learning. And yeah, it would be kind of a shame to lose this this learning path. Yeah. All right. I think we can conclude here soon, but I have also my 5 minutes of fame.
Yeah, we got to give Dan. Dan's been building some.
Please full screen yourself, Dan.
Really cool stuff.
I'll do that. So I just want to show what kind of community projects I've been working on, and also what kind of non-community projects I've been working on, and why you might want to join my Patreon, if you will. Wait, I want to do screen sharing, yes. So yeah, a lot of stuff that I release are free and open source also, because I love the idea of being able to do that. But of course, it takes a lot of time to develop these things. So always I welcome Patreon support from all over the place. There's even a supporter tier where if you appreciate the free and open source tools, you can do a smaller donation. But I also have a lot of exclusive stuff as well that you can check out on my Patreon. The links are there. And I just wanted to share some things that I'm kind of excited about. Something that's coming up is Value Ladder. It's a website that I've been working on, and it's a community project. It's fully for the community, from the community. So the point of this is I'm getting a lot of times the question from beginners and even friends and peers, how much they should charge for certain projects, and it's never a simple answer, obviously. This can change from situation to situation, but to kind of help people navigate in this world, especially beginners, I started this project together with my friend Linda from Berlin, and I just kept on building on top of this idea that we should have a centralized kind of price database and project database where everything is anonymized. Of course, that's a big part of this. But at the end, we would end up with a database of projects and their descriptions, so you could browse through what other people are charging. And also, a big part of it is the estimation. That's when we get enough data from the community, we will be able to build some algorithms that can provide estimations for your upcoming projects using just data analysis algorithms, let's say, but as well as AI-assisted analysis of the upcoming project and the previous projects in the database. So this is something I'm very passionate about, and I hope this can grow into, well, I would say like a union. Of course, that's a pretty strong word, but yeah, I wish for a unionized world in a way. So you can read the mission. You can already check out valueladder.com. Yeah, this will surface more in the future. We just need people to submit projects. So if you're somebody who's already a professional and even not a professional, want to submit projects, you can already do so at valueladder.com. So far, this is closed, so you cannot see the database until we have enough submissions, and the estimation then will be a later point where we get enough data and can fine-tune the estimation algorithm for all of our benefits. So this is something of a utopistic dream, maybe to align on these questions, but if we don't try them, we will never know if this is possible. So that's something I wanted to show. In general, my GitHub page is full of free and open source stuff. Function store tools is one of them. This has been a project that I've been working on for the past 3 years, I think now. Is an extra toolbar in TouchDesigner with a lot of extra features. So yeah, maybe check that out if you have not done so. And yeah, as I said, my Patreon has a lot of exclusive stuff also, and more will come. I'm working on something that's called TDMap, which is going to be a generalized MIDI mapping tool with a lot of features other than outside of MIDI mapping. So it will be something to for sure look out for. And also wanted to mention, because it also ties in here, the VSN1 from Intec. This has been my go-to controller for the past 5 months now. I've developed an integration for this, and if I get the right page, I can also show you Intec pages something. Yes. Yeah, there's this website where you can check out this integration. For me, this has supercharged my TD workflow when building stuff and also when working on installations. So yeah, do check this out. Just wanted to put this out there, but yeah, a generalized version of this also comes soon to my Patreon. And I think that's all the things that I wanted to say. Thanks for everyone for being here. It's been really, really lovely, and I'm very inspired by all the things that we've seen today and all the discussions. And I think we're on a very nice path as a community also to tackle some issues that we have in front of us. And yeah, we shall prevail, I think. Yeah, that's been the stream. Thanks to everybody for joining, and yeah, for chatting. It's been great to have you all, and subscribe also to the channel so we can maybe do this a little bit more often. Yeah, go fam, go TD fam, and yeah, make more fams. All right.
Yeah, it was great.
Thanks, guys.
Cool.
Thank you very much.
Thanks, Ted. It's awesome.
Bye-bye. Cheers.
See y'all.
Okay, see you guys.
Yeah.
Bye-bye.
Bye.
Ooh.